Imagine raising a child for 8 years, bedtime stories, school runs, birthday parties, only to find out a DNA test says you're not her father. That was my reality, and what I thought was a happy marriage and perfect family turned into the biggest betrayal of my life. But the hardest part? Deciding if love or blood makes you a real dad. My name is Tyler, I'm 34, and until a few months ago, I believed I was the proud father of an 8-year-old girl named Michelle. She loves pancakes shaped like hearts, drawing rainbows on scrap paper, and racing me to the mailbox every morning. She calls me Dad like it's the most natural word in the world. I always thought it was. My wife, at least she still wears the ring, Agnes and I met at a coffee shop. I spilled cinnamon on her sleeve. She laughed instead of getting mad. We married 2 years later. Michelle came soon after. I cried the day she was born. I remember counting her fingers, listening to her small cry, telling Agnes, "We did it. We're a family." My parents, Carlos and Stephanie, adore Michelle. My dad taught her how to dribble a basketball in the driveway. My mom has a box of glitter pens labeled Michelle's Art Studio. We are a close family. On Sundays, we all sit at one table, pass food around, and talk about school, work, and the silly dog 2 houses down that barks at leave. I believed we were happy. Sure, life was busy, bills, work, deadlines, but home felt safe. Home was where Michelle ran to me after school, where Agnes kissed my cheek in the kitchen, where we took family photos on the porch with matching sweaters at Christmas. If there were cracks, I didn't see them. If there were secrets, I didn't hear them. I thought love and time were enough. I thought I was a good husband, a good dad. I didn't know the truth was already sitting in our house, waiting for me to find it. And when I did, nothing would ever feel safe again. It started with a joke I brushed off. My friend Kevin was over to watch a game. Michelle ran past us with paint on her hand. "Hey, Picasso," he laughed. "You sure she's yours? She's too talented." It was nothing, just teasing, but it stayed in my head longer than it should have. Later that week, Olivia, our next-door neighbor, said, "Michelle has your patience, Tyler, but she really has Agnes's eyes." I smiled. Of course she did. That made sense. Michelle looks more like Agnes than me. Same nose, same smile lines when they laugh. Still, something tugged at me. I told myself it was silly. Families don't have to match. Love makes a family. I repeated it until the thought quieted down, but it didn't go away. It hid in small moments, like when school sent a picture of Michelle next to her classmates, and I found myself searching for me in her face. One night, I stood by the bathroom mirror and held my hand up to my reflection. I remembered holding Michelle's tiny hand against mine, tracing each finger. We do that sometimes still, hers on top of mine, measuring how she's winning because she's growing. I smiled at the memory. Then the thought was back. Why am I even thinking like this? When I finally said something to Agnes, soft, careful, her face changed. "That's cruel, Tyler," she snapped. "Why would you even ask that?" I told her I wasn't accusing anyone of anything. I just wanted reassurance. She said, "Michelle is your daughter." End of story. But when I walked away, the seed was planted, and it was growing. A month later, Kevin sent me a link to one of those ancestry kits. "Let's do it," he texted. "Find out if I'm secretly Viking." I laughed and bought one. It was supposed to be a joke, a fun thing, not a test of family. I told Agnes at dinner. I ordered a DNA kit. Kevin's doing it too. Her fork paused. "Why?" she asked. "It could be fun," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "It shows where your grandparents are from. We can make a map for Michelle's school project." She set her fork down. "We don't need to do that," she said. "Those tests are unreliable. They sell your data." I said we don't have to send hers, just mine. "I don't like it," she said, too sharp and too fast. "Cancel it." I laughed it off, but inside my chest, something tightened. "It already shipped," I said. She pushed her plate away. "You always do what you want," she muttered. The kit arrived 3 days later. I left it on the counter, not wanting a fight. Agnes moved it to the pantry behind the cereal. The next morning, it was buried under paper towels. Later, it vanished completely. I found it in the garage behind the toolbox. I put it back on the counter. "Why are you acting weird?" I asked. "Because you're being weird," she replied, not meeting my eyes. That Saturday, while Agnes and Michelle were at a birthday party, I spat into the tube and sealed it. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself I just wanted a pretty pie chart that said 20% this, 30% that. I told myself I wasn't looking for trouble. But trouble was already on the way, in a little white envelope with my name on it. The email came on a Tuesday, morning at 10:17 a.m. I was at my desk with a cold coffee. "Your results are ready," the subject line said. I clicked. I scanned for maps and colors and silly percentages. Then my eyes froze on a section I hadn't expected. Close family matches. It listed Michelle as not a match. I stared, blinked, refreshed the page, checked the name again. The birth date, the shared relatives. There was a bold line I can't forget. Paternal match, 0%. I don't remember standing up, but I was suddenly on my feet, the room spinning. I grabbed my phone and typed to Agnes, "We need to talk now." I deleted it. I typed, "How's your day?" Deleted. I finally wrote, "Are you home tonight?" She replied, "Yes, why?" I left work early without telling anyone. I drove home too fast. I sat in the driveway with my hands on the wheel for a long time. Like if I didn't move, none of this was real. Inside, the house looked the same. Michelle's shoes by the door, a crayon under the rug, a magnet shaped like a pineapple crooked on the fridge. It all felt wrong now, like a movie set. When they came home, Michelle ran to me. "Dad, guess what? I got a star in art class." I picked her up and held her too tight. "That's amazing," I whispered, fighting tears. She pulled back, confused. "Are you okay?" "I'm great," I lied. Agnes watched from behind her, careful and quiet. That night, after Michelle fell asleep, I opened the laptop and turned the screen toward Agnes. Her face went still. Then she looked at me and said, "It must be an error." The screen didn't blink. Neither did the truth. I didn't yell. I thought I would. Instead, I felt very calm, like I was standing outside my own body. "Who is her father?" I asked. Agnes stared at the floor. "Tyler," she started. "This test, who is her father?" I repeated. She covered her face with her hands. "I don't know for sure." "You don't know for sure?" My calm cracked. She started talking fast. It was a bad time. We were on a break before the wedding. I was scared. "You were working long hours." I made a mistake. "Who?" I said, each word heavy. "Say his name." Silence stretched. The fridge hummed. Somewhere a car drove by, and I hated that the world could keep moving. She whispered, "Mark." The name hit me like a door slamming. Mark, Agnes's ex-boyfriend from years ago. A shadow from her past who'd send a happy birthday text once every few years. A guy I never liked but never thought about enough to fear. "When?" I asked. "Once," she said. "Right before you and I got back together. I thought Michelle was yours." "You thought?" I repeated. "And in 8 years you never checked? You let me be a dad to a child who might not be mine, and you never checked?" She started to cry. "I was afraid, Tyler. I was so afraid." "You're her dad." "You've always been her dad." I stood up and knocked my knee on the table. The laptop slid. "You made me build a life on a lie," I said. "You made me a father by accident, and you kept me there by choice." Agnes reached for me. I stepped back. I went to Michelle's door. She was asleep, her hair spread like a soft halo on the pillow. I wanted to sob. I wanted to tear something apart. I wanted to protect her from this story she never asked to be inside. Behind me, the truth waited for what I would do next. I slept on the couch. In the morning, I told Agnes I needed time. She nodded like a person who knew time had already run out. I called Kevin and told him I needed a day off from work. He asked if I was okay. I said no. He didn't push. "I'm here," he said. That helped. While Agnes took Michelle to school, I opened our old photo folders. I wasn't looking for proof that Michelle was mine. I already had what the test said. I was looking for the moments where I should have known. I found pictures of Agnes smiling on a porch, me kissing Michelle's tiny forehead, the three of us under a cheap umbrella in the rain. Nothing looked fake. Everything looked happy. It made me angrier. Then I opened Agnes's old emails, the ones saved in a forgotten folder because she used to print receipts from there. I searched Mark. Too many results. My chest tightened. Some were from before we married. A few were after. "Hope you're well. Congrats on the baby. Maybe we can catch up sometime." I felt sick. I checked dates. I checked messages. Most were short. One was longer. 2 years after Michelle was born. Sometimes I think about the what-ifs. Do you? There was no reply from Agnes in the thread I could see. It didn't matter. The what-ifs were now my life. Carlos called. "You didn't come by last night," he said. "My dad notices everything." I told him I'd visit later. Stephanie got on the phone and asked if Michelle could sleep over this weekend. I said yes, then no, then yes again. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to drive to Mark's house and demand answers. Instead, I sat down and stared at the wall. I pictured Michelle's laugh. I pictured her running into my arms. I pictured the word 0% in bold. I felt like two people at once, a father who would die for his child and a man who had been lied to for 8 years. When the garage door opened and Agnes came home, I didn't look up. I was afraid if I did, I'd see the life we built and not recognize it. But I knew I couldn't hide much longer. I texted Mark. "We need to talk. It's about Michelle." He replied, "Who is this?" "Tyler." There was a long pause, then, "Agnes told you?" "Not everything," I wrote. "I need to see you." We met at a small park near his place. The sky was gray. The benches were cold. He looked older than I remembered, but not older in the way life wears you down. Older in the way secrets do. "I didn't know," he said before I could speak. "Agnes never said Michelle might be mine." "I swear, you never wondered?" I asked. I wondered, he admitted, but she shut it down back then. I respected that. I moved on. You still texted, I said. He shrugged. Stupid, I know. It was, I don't know, habit, history. Not your history, I said, my voice tight. Mine. He looked away. What do you want from me, Tyler? I didn't know. A fight? An apology? A time machine? I want my life back, I said. But I can't have it, can I? We sat in silence. A kid rode by on a scooter, laughed, and the sound was a knife and a bandage at the same time. Finally, I said, if a court asks, will you take a test? He nodded. Yes. Does your family know? I asked. I'm single, he said. My mom's sick. That's all I've got. I'm sorry. I stood up. So am I. I didn't shake his hand. On the drive home, I gripped the wheel so hard my fingers hurt. I wasn't sure who I was angrier at. Agnes for lying, Mark for existing in our story, or myself for not seeing what was right in front of me. At a red light, I saw a dad holding his small son's hand across the street. The boy looked up at him and smiled. The dad smiled back. I had to pull over and cry. When I walked into our house, Agnes was at the table with tissue. Where were you? She asked, eyes red. Starting the part where we stopped pretending, I said. We tried to keep the fight quiet. We failed. Voices carry in small homes and pain is louder than doors. Please, Agnes said. We can fix this. Counseling. Anything. Counseling can't change blood, I said. It can't change 8 years of lies. We were still arguing when a soft voice came from the hallway. Mom, Dad? Michelle stood there in pajamas, hair messy from sleep. She looked so small. Why are you mad? I wiped my face fast. We're not mad at you, kiddo. Did I do something wrong? She asked, and my heart split in two. No, I said. Never. I knelt so we were eye level. You did nothing wrong. She looked at Agnes. Mom? Agnes covered her mouth with her hand. She whispered. Michelle stepped closer. Are you leaving? She asked me. I couldn't breathe. I'm not leaving you, I said. I love you. That won't change. Then what's wrong? She asked, scared now. How do you explain DNA to an 8-year-old without breaking her? How do you tell a child the world is made of both love and fact? And sometimes they fight? I said, sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big ones. And sometimes those mistakes hurt people they love. Like you? She asked. Like me, I said. But not you. Never you. She crawled into my lap and hid her face in my shirt. Please don't be sad, she whispered. I held her and nodded against her hair. Over her shoulder, Agnes was crying silently. Later that night, when Michelle finally fell asleep in our bed, I sat in the hall and stared at the wall. Agnes brought me a blanket and left it beside me without speaking. I stayed there until morning, guarding a door I didn't know how to open anymore. I told my parents. I didn't want to, but secrets rot everything they touch. Carlos listened without interrupting, jaw tight. Stephanie cried into her hands. She's still our granddaughter, my mom said, fierce through tears. I know, I said, but I don't know what I am anymore. My dad put a hand on my shoulder. You're the man who has shown up for 8 years, he said. That counts. It counts a lot. I wanted that to be enough. I wanted love to bend math and rewrite biology. But every time I tried to breathe, I saw 0% again. Rational or not, it felt like the floor giving way. Agnes asked if we could start therapy right away. I said yes because I didn't know what else to do, and because I was afraid of what I might decide if I didn't try. The therapist, kind eyes, calm voice, said this would be the hardest work of our lives. She said I had the right to be angry. She said Agnes had to own her choices without excuses. She said Michelle needed consistency, not chaos. At home, I moved to the guest room. I told Michelle I was trying a new sleeping spot like a camping adventure. She laughed, then studied my face and hugged me too long. Mark took a test, quietly, no drama. The result came back in a thin envelope that felt heavy, 99.9% probability of paternity. No surprises now, just the official stamp on a story I never wanted. I sat with the paper for an hour. I thought about calling Mark. I didn't. I thought about calling Kevin and asking him to distract me with dumb jokes. I didn't. I just sat and listened to the house, pipes, a click, the soft hum of the fridge, and tried not to break. That night at dinner, Michelle told me she drew our family at school. I drew 3 hearts, she said. Mine, Mom's, and yours. She looked proud. My teacher said it's beautiful. It is, I said, and my voice shook so hard I had to cough to hide it. Agnes stared at her plate. I stared at everything we could still lose. Decisions don't always happen all at once. Sometimes they happen in slices, thin cuts of yes and no until a shape appears. I met Agnes at the kitchen table after we put Michelle to bed. I can't stay married, I said calmly. I can't sleep beside you and pretend this never happened. She closed her eyes and nodded, like she'd been waiting for the words. But, I added, I am not leaving Michelle. I may not be her biological father, but I am her dad. I am her every day. I am her pancakes and mail races and bad knock-knock jokes. I am her safety, and I'm staying in her life. Agnes covered her face and cried. Thank you, she whispered. She needs you. I know I don't deserve your kindness. This isn't kindness, I said. It's duty. It's love. It's the promise I made to a baby I held in my arms 8 years ago. We told Michelle the next weekend with help from the therapist. We used simple words. We said Mom and Dad were going to live in different rooms, maybe different homes later, but nothing about our love for her would change. She asked if she could still race me to the mailbox. I said every day. I filed for divorce. It hurt, but it also felt like telling the truth out loud. My lawyer asked about Mark. I asked about custody. I chose to seek legal acknowledgement as a de facto parent. Not because of blood, but because of years. Carlos and Stephanie promised to show up to anything, anytime. Kevin came over with pizza and let me talk in circles. Olivia left a note. You're a good dad. Don't forget it. A few weeks later, I met Mark again. I told him he could be in Michelle's life if it served her, not his guilt or curiosity. She is not a prize, I said. She's a child. We move at her pace. He nodded. I understand. When I tucked Michelle in that night, she asked, Are you still my dad? I swallowed and said, always. She smiled and closed her eyes. I sat on the floor beside her bed until her breathing slowed. Here's what I've learned. Love is not smaller than DNA. It's not weaker. It's the thing that gets up in the morning, ties tiny shoes, and shows up again tomorrow. It's the thing that says, I choose you, even when the papers say otherwise. My name is Tyler, and I am Michelle's dad. The tests can tell our story in numbers. I'll tell it in pancakes and mailboxes in 8 years that never go away. I'm not the same man I was, and my marriage is over, but my fatherhood is not. If you're watching this, and a seed of doubt is eating you alive, I won't tell you what to do. I'll just say this, truth hurts, but lies starve you. Choose the pain that heals. Choose the love that stays. Tomorrow morning, a little girl will shout, Race you! And run toward the mailbox. I'll run too, and I'll let her win, like always, because that's what dads do.
Some betrayals don't just break marriages, they break identities. Tyler discovered the child he raised wasn't his by blood, but in the end, he proved that love is stronger than DNA. What would you do if you were in his shoes? Would you stay in the child's life or walk away for good? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story shook you, the next one will leave you speechless. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, remember, love chosen is love that lasts.